Hey, beautiful creatives. Welcome to Life I Design, the podcast. Thanks for joining me, your host, Nicki Traikos. I'm an artist, letterer, instructor, and creative business owner. I started and built Life I Design from home while raising a family and learning how to juggle it all. This podcast is my way of pulling back the curtain and inviting you to step into my home studio so we can get candid about all things art, business, and life so I can help you create a life that you design. Hello, fellow creatives. If you've been with me since the beginning, or at least episode 2, you're going to understand what I'm about to share. I have to say that this stack of pancakes that I've been cooking up here with these podcast episodes are really starting to come together, don't you think? They are starting to flow. I have a better idea of what you want to hear more about. And overall, altogether, they've formed, I think, a really nice stack of pancakes. If you've been listening since the beginning, you'll know that I meant to launch this podcast in December 2020. After pushing back the launch date from September because I got overwhelmed and busy and felt a little unsure about what it is that I was going to share. But because of an error on my part, no big surprise, I forgot to reschedule the first episode. It was edited, it was scheduled, I use Anchor, so it was all done, ready to go. And then that's when I decided to just push back a little bit. But I forgot to reschedule that first episode, and it went live before I was anywhere near ready to launch. So I decided to end this first round of episodes with this one. It's almost December. We're on episode 12. 12. I can't believe it. Oh my gosh. I've planned, recorded, and produced 12 episodes since September. First of all, where's time gone? Doesn't it feel like time's been moving slow and fast at the same time? I can't believe it's already almost December. So as I've been producing these 12 episodes, I'm starting to get to know you more. I'm starting to get to know who my listeners are. And I think I have a better idea of what you'd like to hear more about. I've learned that making detailed notes for each episode means that my editor can edit the episodes more smoothly, and that even looking at getting a sponsor maybe in the future will be a good idea to help with those expenses. I've learned a lot, I have to say, since September, and it wasn't actually that long ago. So, in other words, I started this podcast before I was ready, before I knew what I was doing or really even understood what it takes to plan, to create, to produce, and publish a podcast. And guess what? I didn't die. Yeah, I've made mistakes along the way these last few months. And yes, these episodes may not be perfect, but I'm glad I started. And no, I'm not stopping anytime soon. What I have done is scheduled a time for a bit of a breather. Let's face it, this year has kicked us in the butt. My little family has faced its own challenges this year, apart from what's happening with COVID. And one of the beauties of being self-employed is that, well, you're in charge. You're the boss. You can call the shots. And I am taking a much-needed break in December. So I'm not stopping work altogether because, well, we still need to eat and pay the bills. But I am making space. I'm making space to have a little bit of time to breathe and think and just enjoy. I do this actually twice a year, once in late December and once in August. I take almost the entire month off, which actually means I take time away from daily tasks to plan the upcoming quarter, to paint more, spend more time with family and friends, and do things like declutter the closets because they are overflowing and mad crazy, and even read a book or two. So while I take the month of December off, can you do me a few small favors? Listen to an episode that you missed, maybe re-listen to one that you love, and wait for me because I will be back the first Monday in January with a fresh playlist of episodes for you. Sound good? Okay, so let's move on to our last episode for 2020. It is episode number 12. This will be the first episode of our little virtual creative book club and not the last. I really had to edit a large stack of books for this episode. And I will tell you that these first round of books that I have ready and I'm about to share with you have really influenced my business. They've influenced my business, my creativity, my mindset, and quite literally, they've pulled me out of a slump more than once. Okay. So I want to tell you how important reading and learning is to me. I know you've already heard me talk about it in past episodes about learning and taking classes, but I want you to think about this for a minute. If you don't know how to do something, what do? You research, right? You research, you ask a friend, you ask your mom, you watch a video, you read a book, you look for the answer, or you research and you learn. And you follow little trails like articles that lead to videos and videos that lead to books and books that lead to classes. And you get the idea, right? For me, reading does two things. One, it fills my curiosity and my need to understand something, whether it's about how to do something like paint watercolor or what to eat so my hot flashes stop, or how to be more consistent because every Monday morning I'm ready to change all my bad habits and I think they're going to magically disappear. Can you relate to that? The second thing that reading does for me is it actually gets me off technology and also out of my head. So I read stories that are an escape that take me into someone else's world and builds my imagination muscle. Is anyone a fan of the Outlander series? Okay, that is a series that I literally fell into and was hooked. Book one had me hooked, and I binged all 8 books in probably a year. So that's huge because I don't have a lot of time to read, and those books are massive. So if any Outlander fans, let me know. Hit me up on social media. We can chat. So reading for me fills that curiosity. It also gives me an escape. It also helps me understand myself better. It improves my life. It makes me want to move to Scotland and hike the Highlands. I'm going to share with you a nice variety of books that I hope you check out. And so, okay, Outlander, I guess, is the first one. Not creative related, not even personal development related, but if you haven't read them, highly, highly recommend them. Okay. So I am going to share with you books that maybe will help you get excited, maybe will be the jumping off point for you to explore more, to learn more, and understand better whatever it is that you're reading about. Okay? So, book number 1 and book number 2 go hand in hand. I bought them together, I read them together. They are a really quick read and ones that I recommend that you read and reread. I think I'll add them to my December book reading list for sure. So, Steal Like an Artist and Show Your Work by Austin Kleon. Kleon. I read these books years and years and years ago when I was struggling with my art business, my artist identity, basically all the things that are art and artist related. Okay, they are super easy to read. They are very inspiring and very insightful. He basically gives you permission to take pieces that you love from artists that you admire and translate them into your own. So, kind of copying, but not so much. It's what artists have done for years and years and years. They're influenced by other artists and what they're doing, maybe colors, styles, motifs, whatever it is. But among other tips and insights about creativity and art and even sharing your art, which brings me to the second book that I love. So, Share Like an Artist. Sorry, did I say show your work? I think I did, but it's Share Like an Artist. So, Share Like an Artist basically encourages you to share daily your process, your art, your point of view. And that's something I still struggle to do, especially social media. I'm kind of not a fan of social media, and I really do struggle to show up there. But his book, Share Like an Artist, is basically encouraging you to make art, share that art, and embrace it. Okay, so those are 2 really easy to read books that I highly recommend. Pick them up, maybe put them on your Christmas wish list, and let me know what you think, actually. So the next book in our list is called You Are a Badass by Jen Sincero. So for me, this book was one that I devoured and will probably pick up again, maybe during the month of December, maybe even in January when I finalize my plan for 2021 and with what I want to achieve. I feel like this book is the type of book that really puts into perspective why you do the things you do, who you are, and really how to let shit go. It's written really casually, just like the first 2 books that I mentioned, Austin Kleon's books. I feel like they're all written really casually. And for me, I love that easy, casual style of writing. And it's a great pick-me-up when you need a boost, but also when you want to shift what you let affects you. So if you're working on, just releasing what people's thoughts are of you or any self-doubt, maybe uncontrollable circumstances, it's a really great personal development kind of self-help book, but it really makes you think about what you do, why you do it, and how you let things affect you. Kind of woo-woo too, with a bit of just manifesting and attracting. So I feel like this book actually would make a really great podcast episode on its own. When we start up again in the new year, I'm hoping to start bringing on guests so we can have conversations around art, business, and life in general. So maybe I'll bring someone on who has also read this book and maybe have a conversation about it. I think it'll be great. Let me know what you think. I'm actually curious about that. Okay, so I've mentioned a few art books, personal development, of course, my favorite Outlander series. And now I am going to talk a little bit more about art. So, the next book on my list of I definitely feel like you need to read it because it's changed my life is called Drawing on the Right Side of the Brain by Betty Edwards. It's a book I picked up years and years and years ago again. I never actually finished it, not gonna lie, but it's on my list of books to finish in 2021. I will start from the beginning once again. It literally teaches you how to view what you're drawing in a way that allows you to look at shapes and contours and having your brain sort of flip the image and recognizing pieces of the image that you're viewing versus connecting emotionally to what you're looking at and associating it to something. So it opens up your creative muscle as well as it builds your skill. Now, the reason that I haven't finished this book is because although I love to read and learn, I am a visual learner, meaning I need to watch a video and a demonstration when learning how to actually do something, just if that makes sense. So when I have to read instructions to walk me through a process, my brain literally shuts off and starts daydreaming of things like chocolate or shiny objects. But I have found a video instruction on YouTube that relates to this book, or I think it may even be produced by the same people who produced this book. So if you're anything like me and you need more visual cues, maybe that's what we'll do. That'll be a good route for us. Maybe we can even do an episode where we've done a few of the exercises and talked about them. Anyway, brainstorming as I'm talking about these books. See what happens when you read and you talk about things that help you, like resources like books. Okay, so I'm going to personally try and read the book again and get through it next year. But from what I've read and the exercises I've done already, I can totally see improvement on how my eye recognizes the lines and shapes and forms versus drawing again what we emotionally have a connection to. So let's say drawing a strawberry, for instance. I can now break down a strawberry into more simplistic shapes and can draw it using a better perspective instead of looking at it and relating it to being a strawberry, if that makes sense. So anyway, pick up the book. I may have to do an update in my next Creative Book Club episode where I can share a little bit more from experience because it is a little scientific in its approach, but it is still very artsy and creative. Okay, so two more left on my list. Like I said, I think I had about a dozen stacked in front of me and really had to create a shorter list because this episode would go on forever. So next up on the book list is Atomic Habits by James Clear. I loved this book. It really was a game changer. I will definitely reread it. I had originally learned about James through Amy Porterfield's podcast. I suffer from not being consistent with lots of things in my business, in my art practice, and my personal health or fitness regime. I'm a highly disciplined person and often see projects right to the end, but I am horrible at being consistent with daily actions, especially that are repetitive, because I get bored so very easily. However, what James teaches in his book makes complete sense to me, and it works when you apply his principles because it's a great way to break a habit or to start a new, better habit. So, for instance, he talks about doing the same daily task for a short period of time and talks about how that's far better than doing something once for a long period of time and then not doing it again until like a month later. So let's take painting, for example. If you were to practice painting 5 minutes every day, you would see consistent improvement over the course of, let's say, a month versus painting once a month for an hour. Does that make sense? I wholeheartedly see this in my own practice because when I'm busy with doing things like writing podcast episodes, creating classes, or working on email copy, I'm not painting. And sometimes I don't pick up a paintbrush for a week or even a few weeks if we're in the middle of getting ready to launch a new class, whatever it is. So then when I sit down to paint for like a much needed painting session, I'm often rusty, I get frustrated, and I don't enjoy that painting practice. So on the flip side, when I'm painting a commission or working on new illustrations, I'm often painting daily and for quite a long time. So it's easy for me to get into the flow when I sit down to paint. I enjoy that process, and then I even love what I'm painting. So it all just comes together more easily. Okay. I'm going to work on his principles. That'll be something that I put on my 2021 list. And I'm even going to get back into a fitness routine using what he teaches. So that's something that I've struggled with for sure this year. I don't know if you can relate, the big COVID-15. It's a real thing. Okay, so that's Atomic Habits. Love, love, love that book. So let's move on to our last book. And this is one by a fellow Canadian artist, Danielle Christa. She actually has a great podcast too. This book is called Collage. It is an amazing compilation of contemporary artists who create collages using paper, paint, cutting, pasting, you name it. So I'm going to read to you actually the challenge that Danielle gave the artists just from one of the pages of the book. So it says, one image, 30 completely unique pieces of art. Every artist featured in Collage was given the same snapshot from 1958. We asked them to create a new collage using some or all of this image of a little cowboy and his accordion-playing brother. The fantastic results can be found at the start of each artist section. And you have to imagine the photo. It is of two little boys, black and white. They are wearing black fake mustaches. One of the boys is playing an accordion. It's quite cute and quite simple, which I thought's amazing. So each section of the book, it's a short bio about the artist. It shows their interpretation of that symbol image and then collaged in their style, which is really neat to see how each artist interpreted the image and how they added their own personal artistic style and personality to the collage. It's amazing. And then it goes on to show a showcase of their art and style too. And it's always amazing for me to read the bios of other artists and what inspires them, and then to see a cohesive collection of artwork that showcases their talent and imagination. Reading books like this makes me want to spend all of my time creating art and doing nothing else. So before I finish up this episode, I want to give you one magazine suggestion too. So it's not book club, but when I was really struggling to start Life I Design and find my artistic voice and figure out my business, I had some really, really hard days. Like all I wanted to do was watch TV and escape reality. Those kind of days. In those moments, I felt lost. I didn't believe that I could be a working artist. I doubted my abilities. I doubted my talent. And I had no idea often what my next step would be, or even like what the right step would be. So believe me, it happens more than you think. Thankfully, I've worked past, I think, all of the hardest moments that I've had to deal with transitioning to this life I design and being a working artist. And I wanted to give up in the past. There were moments where I thought I wasn't good enough or I had a lot of self-doubt, but I pushed forward. And what actually helped me during those times were stories. Stories of women who were living a creative life, who were thriving in that artistic expression and creativity, who were making money and running a business that not only fulfilled them, but that sustained them financially. So the magazine that really helped me through those moments was the magazine Where Women Create. It's a magazine that I have to share pulled me out of those slumps, because with every interview I read and with every story that they shared of women working in creative ways from home, from a studio, you name it, I read bits of determination. I saw grit. And most importantly, I felt their joy. I felt joy for their success, the possibility of success for me, and a wee bit of competition, I have to say. I wanted to have what they had. Competition is actually a really healthy thing. And I reread those stories and kept stacks of that magazine at my bedside table, near my desk. And whenever I felt that slump, I forced myself to read that magazine over and over and over again. Okay. Fast forward a few years, and I was lucky too to be featured in an issue of Where Women Create. And I was able to share my story with other women who needed a boost and who needed to know that they could do it too. Okay. So wherever you are and whatever point you are, I hope that a couple of these books spoke to you. I really actually enjoyed sharing what books really have affected my creativity, affected my business, and even helped me develop to the person that I am today. I know that I stuck in a few personal development books, but I feel like that's all part of the journey. They're hugely important for growth and even to help shift your perspective. Well, that's a wrap. That's a wrap for episode number 12. Our episodes for 2020 and our pretty stack of pancakes. I really hope you've enjoyed these first dozen episodes. I would so appreciate it if you could take a few minutes and leave us a review on iTunes. That's if that's where you're tuning in from. It helps get the word out and it helps us reach more people. So if you don't listen on iTunes, please share on social media, maybe even tag us. And we are at Life I Design, the podcast. It'd be really cool to see who's tuning in. So thank you again for spending this time with me here, to listening, and even those of you who've sent me encouraging messages. They really have meant a lot over these last few months. I've really enjoyed producing these podcasts, and I'm actually excited to see where it goes in 2021. So thank you again for tuning in. Happy creating, and I will chat with you in the new year. Take care.